Hi, today we're going to do a quick review of factor combinations. And factor combinations are the relationships between your primary factors or your drives on a PI graph. So I won't talk a lot about the individual factors, A, B, C, D. If you don't remember about dominance and extroversion, patience, and formality, stop this video and go ahead and review those because that'll be important. What I'm going to talk about now is when I do know those four drives, tell me what the relationship between the drives indicates about a person. So, for example, in this case, I have an A factor, dominance drive, happens to be furthest to the right. I also have a C factor, patience, in this case, furthest to the left. This is just one of the six factor combinations I have in this pattern. One relationship. All of those dots have relationships to each other. But what does this tell me about this person? Well, first off, it tells me they have a lot more drive for control, high dominance, than they do for patience, for stability. And so, as a reminder of what that looks like, here's a graph or graphic that you saw in your training and that's in your materials. When you think about intensity, and we're thinking left to right, think about it like a volume control. If you have a car radio and you turn that knob to the right, your volume gets louder. When I turn that to the left, my volume gets softer. I don't hear as much. Same thing with your drives. Further to the right, more intensely felt and expressed. Furthest to the left, not as much need or drive for that particular factor. So in this case, A, dominance, is really winning over my drive for patience, for stability. So how I'll define that is A over C, or A winning over C. That's one factor combination. All of these dots in relationship to each other will tell something specific about this person. A and B, dominance and extroversion, will tell me, will that person tend to be more task-oriented or people-oriented? The A and C relationship we were just examining, in the case of somebody who's got a lot of dominance, high A, and not a lot of patience, low C, that's going to be somebody who's very proactive, right? Driven, competitive, fast-paced. So as we look at the individual factor combinations, we can identify specific things about a person's behavior or about what I might need in a given job. Really great place to learn how to understand what those factor combinations tell you is in your toolkit. Pages 10 and 11 should have those marked and should be going back to that time and time again. So that's the basic definition of how do I understand these relationships, these dot relationships, right? Is it A over B? Is it B over A? The next thing I want to know is how intensely felt and expressed is that relationship? In other words, if somebody's A over C, does that mean everybody that's A over C is going to be exactly the same? Not at all. What I want to know is how much of this particular behavior that person has. And we measure that in terms of what we'll call sigmas. And the way that we can look at sigmas is the the tick marks that are at the bottom of your graph. In this case, A happens to be higher than C and 12 tick marks apart from it, right? If I count at the bottom, I've got 12 tick marks. That tells me I've got 3 sigmas of A over C. And that's extremely strongly felt and expressed. So just as a quick reminder, your sigmas are first 1 to 5 tick marks is 1 sigma, moderately felt or expressed. 6 to 10 tick marks of distance, that's going to give me something that's very strongly felt and expressed, 2 sigmas worth of it. And anything that's 11 or more is going to be extremely strongly felt and expressed. So that's just a reminder. Again, that's in your notes. When I want to really understand what makes somebody tick, or when I really want to define what I need in a job, then I want to look at factor combinations in order of intensity. In this pattern, A over C is the widest. It's the biggest distance between two dots, which means it's going to be the most strongly felt and expressed behavior for this person. And as I start looking down this graph, I'm going to go to the next widest, and define these factor combinations in order. And the reason that I want to do it that way is the stuff I start with is going to be what really is what I see every day with that person, right? And then at the end, I'm going to run into factors, in this case, A over B, that are much more moderately or generally felt and expressed. Yeah, most of the time they're going to be like this. Sometimes they're going to be like that. Sometimes you'll even have 2 dots that are right on top of each other. In fact, one's not winning over the other. we'll call that a situational factor combination. It's not something that'll define who they are on one side of that graph or the other, right? So what I really want to focus in on are the top 3 or 4. That's going to tell me what I need to know about a person, the widest combinations. Okay, one more recap, and then we're going to go to a quick quiz. In your toolkit, you have some definitions. So for every one of these 6 factor combinations, it's going to show you both sides of the coin. And in this case, we've got A over C, proactive or responsive. And what does that mean? How much of the stuff I see on this page I will see in the person depends on the width of that factor combination. The other place to go is in your workbook. We took a lot of notes in class where we broke down, if I know this factor combination, what does that tell me about somebody? So for example, not only will A over C tell me whether they're proactive or responsive, A and C combinations, but it will also tell me how somebody responds to pressure, how well they adjust to change, what they're like taking action, and how well they listen. So every one of your 6 factor combinations can be broken down in this kind of detail. It's the Rosetta Stone, really, of using PI. So go ahead and learn that. The good news is there's only 6, not 600. And once you learn these 6, you're going to be a PI pro.